a lot of heirloom corns and
nothing like that brown rice that people are starting to use.
I don't know.
That does not taste very good.
I mean, keep that in the Mexican food, man. Keep that in the Tex-Mex, bro. Not in the whiskey. I don't know, man. That may be what's missing in bourbon.
Hello, and welcome everyone to episode 80 of The Mashup, the best bourbon conversation you're going to hear all week long. We're your hosts, Anthony and Steven. Hello, fella.
Hey, buddy, what's happening? What about this man to my right over here?
He looks familiar.
I think I've seen him before.
I think the cat drug him in.
Did you get a haircut?
I did.
Oh.
I did. Yeah. My stylist makes me look a lot better than I really am.
A plus.
Hey, I think it's wonderful, and I think that if I had to guess, you probably went and got that haircut because after we had you on, I know that catapulted you to fame. I heard just from secondhand, Steven, I don't know if you've heard this yet, but Mossick was like just out walking around town, like over into Summit, getting something to eat.
Yep.
And he got mobbed by a whole bunch of ladies that were like, we heard you on the Mashup podcast and we love you.
Where was I during all this?
Oh, man. Dude, I'll tell you what. Well, we're happy to have you back. I'll just say why we're happy to have you back, because last episode I had a very unfortunate, I guess, gaffe is the best way to put it. So I brought this bottle out. This is the bottle we did last week. And I know that you haven't probably, I don't know if you've listened to that or not yet. But if you were looking at this bottle, how would you pronounce the name of this brand of whiskey right here?
It's totally Balcones.
It is. And why were you so quick to say that? and why couldn't I think of that?
No, I'm just...
It's actually, it was, I said, and I'm taking full credit for this and full responsibility. And Steven's sitting over here smirking because he loves when I make mistakes. But we recorded.
And I do remember this. That
you do.
Right before that, I said, how do we pronounce this again?
Yeah. You said that, and I think I just like, real seriously, I was like, Balcones.
I was like, great, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
And then,
got a bottle of Balcones for you, Anthony.
I'm over here going over and thinking about the fact that, I may say some things sometimes that aren't 100% correct.
No.
And, my struggle with geography. Like, yes. I can't tell where rivers are at or mountains or anything. It's awful. And so I just very confidently said that this was Balcones, and I apologize to Texas and the whole brand, because it's very obviously Balcones.
Well, to be fair, the further south you get, the wilder the accents are, and the wilder the pronunciations is,
Yeah.
I'm sure most people in the Balcones, Texas, in that area, they probably don't know how to say Louisville that well either. So,
that's true.
That is true.
Give and take, Balcones, it's got a little Spanish influence. It makes it beautiful, but, here in Kentucky, we go to Paris.
That's
Here in
true.
Kentucky, we go to Versailles, not Versailles.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's perfect, because now I can hide behind that and say I was just pronouncing the phonetic pronunciation just like we do with everything else in Kentucky. So
That's
the Kentucky pronunciation of Balcones is officially, I'm dubbing it tonight, Balcones.
There you go. Beautiful.
That's perfect.
They probably have something to say about that.
Yeah, in our defense, that was our first time ever trying a single malt. And was that your first time trying Texas whiskey?
I think it was. I don't think I've had it before.
They do some really wild stuff with grain profiles, too. They'll have some really weird experimental kind of grain that they'll use. A lot of heirloom corns. And
nothing like that brown rice that people are starting to use.
I don't know.
That does not taste very good.
I mean, keep that in the Mexican food, man. Keep that in the Tex-Mex, bro. Not in the whiskey. I don't know, man. That may be what's missing in bourbon, some brown rice. You never know, man. And kudos to them, man. They're the ones taking the step out. They're the ones, taking all the risk doing it, and I don't have the cojones to do that.
There you go.
Yeah.
The cojones or the Balcones?
I don't have the balcones.
So, fellows, we did not have any reviews last week, but if anyone wants to get a shout out, just leave us a review on Apple Podcast or Facebook, and next time we record, we'll give you a shout out.
That's right. Please. And if you want to bother us on Instagram, you can always do that. We're always up for a little bit. You wouldn't be bothering us, but I'm prolific botherer on Instagram. Like, I have no shame. I've said this before. I'll just message people out of the blue that are like wildly popular, and I'm just like, I wonder if they'll respond to me. And a lot of times they do. So that's pretty cool on them to do it. And if you message us, we will respond to you.
Gentlemen, for tonight, we have a bottle of Woodford Reserve Honey Barrel Finish.
So this bottle comes to us from the Woodford Reserve Distillery, which is out in Versailles, Kentucky, over there on McCracken Pike. And the bottle date is 2022. The ABV is 45.2%. Proof is 90.4. This is non-age stated. The mash bill is 72% corn, 18% rye, and 10% malted barley. And the MSRP on this is $59.99, and that's for a 375 milliliter bottle, and this is a distillery only limited Kentucky retailers release.
Let's talk about this bottling. It's gorgeous too, right? I mean, it's very compact. You can almost slide it in the back pocket. Your typical Woodford design there. I like the little 375.
Yeah, if you've seen one white label, you've seen them all, right?
Right.
Did you want to, when you said about sliding in your pocket, did you have some ideas? Were you thinking like fireball at the football game kind of, thing? You know, we talk a lot about sliding. I think Steven actually has done it. Haven't you slid some whiskeys into your drawers and gone to the football game?
No, but speaking of, I went to the last home football game.
Yeah.
And Michael was there as well.
Oh.
But we were sitting in different sections, but we rode together. Mm-hmm. And as we're walking out, he was sitting near the student section. He's like, Fireball got their day today. It was everywhere.
Of course, right?
Well, I mean, we're in Kentucky. We wear Western boots from time to time, man. That's a perfect boot whiskey too.
That's
man.
true. You can slide it right in there. Do you guys think this label though? Like, I know it looks classic and everything, but the distillery series, for those of you who might not even have ever seen these, because unless you're buying them from, I guess I would say the secondary markets, they don't really release heavily in a lot of other markets. It's usually Kentucky only release or distillery only release, so you got to visit or you got to get somewhere else. Do you think this pops enough for like a special sort of release? Does it look too
I think
plain?
it pops in that it's so simple. I think it pops in simplicity. A lot of what I think Woodford is doing well in this labeling is that they're not doing too much. I mean, in all of their special releases, it's very classy. It's very above board. I've always kind of really respected something that can maintain a presence in a market as saturated as whiskey and still maintain its class and beauty to it. I think there's beauty and simplicity.
I think you're right, because I think the white label, the paper label with the black writing, but against the amber bourbon, I think it's eye-catching enough. Because I think the width of the bottle is almost the width of a standard fifth.
Yeah.
Even though this is half that.
Yeah.
I think it pops enough to catch your eye.
And if it works, it kind of reminds me of the way the labeling is done on Lot B. So if it works for old Julian Van Winkle, then it's got to work for.
Speaking of Lot B, we're talking same proof points too at 90.4.
That's true.
Oh,
that's a good bit of knowledge.
Nice eye.
All right, so a little bit of information about this bottle, because I know that being a honey barrel has multiple meanings to multiple people. And so traditionally, what do you guys understand a honey barrel to be in the bourbon world?
Well, if you're thinking honey, right, that's obvious. It is as obvious. It's on the nose for me, in my opinion. Honey barrels, though, in the whiskey world, if you're talking like some true nerds, it's a specific spot in the rack house that could produce top tasting whiskeys, just depending on a lot of different factors, right? Temperature, elevation, barometric pressures, how much sun exposure you're getting to whatever side is going to lend itself to having certain areas in the rack house be more profitable in how these barrels are maturating. So,
okay,
that's one good descriptor as a honey barrel.
No, I mean, I think Winnie the Pooh. No, but seriously, going off what you said, Mosik, I think those key spots in the warehouse are probably where your higher end bourbons are stored and produced and matured.
Yeah, absolutely.
So definitely, I think that's what I think of when I hear honey barrel.
And that's what I would think of too. In fact, when I heard that this was releasing, I immediately thought about the fact that I think it was Blanton's this year that released an overseas only product. Because I love when Buffalo Trace does that, when they're like, hey, we appreciate everybody, the whiskey aficionados in the United States, but we're going to send all this other stuff overseas to get people excited about. But they released a Blanton's Honey Barrel. And that Blanton's Honey Barrel is supposed to be what you said, like a very premium product, or what you're saying about the being in the warehouse.
So there's a gold, a straight, and now a honey?
Yeah, and then there's all those special releases too that they put in there. Like,
dang.
Well, then you have
what was the proof of that honey?
I think it was pretty high. I don't remember. Like, of course, I'll never get my hands on one unless I want to spend a ton of money, which I ain't trying to do that for some.
Well, I've had some
blends.
La Maison du whiskeys, right? The liquor barn of Europe, right?
Yeah.
La Maison du whiskey.
They have special releases for blends, right?
That's right. Yep, they do annually or biannually. I'm glad you brought that up, though. European, and why brands like Buffalo Trace are sending that over there. So often are we taking this spirit for granted? In the U.S., there's not a lot of people that are experiencing what we're experiencing here in the States of this high quality spirits that we get to enjoy on a regular basis. Bourbons worldwide isn't as competitive, say, as Scotch. Scotch is still the whiskey of the world.
That's
right?
a big one, huh?
Absolutely. And the more whiskey, the more exposure to more palates overseas will do nothing but help the whiskey as a distillate.
Yeah.
But selfishly, I want to stay here, man. Like, I want that for myself. As you
definitely.
do.
I want all of it too. But even with all that, that's not what this is. Actually, this is part of what I would consider to be a new trend, or we can talk about it being a trend. But basically, what happened is Woodford went and dumped some bourbon barrels, for bottling. Then they sent the barrels off to a Winchester farmer, and that Winchester farmer filled the barrels with honey to do some bourbon infused honey. And then when that was done, those barrels that had that honey residue in them were transferred back to Woodford. Woodford fresh filled them, let them age. They don't really say how long they let them age. That's not on the bottle, and I don't know that it's in the press release. But then again, I didn't read the press release because I don't even know how to say balcones right. So, that's
Anthony,
how
it's honey.
It's Is that how you pronounce that?
I think so.
So that's how that came to be, and I only got this product because a really good friend of mine, who will remain anonymous for the purposes of protecting his secrets, he told me that this was going to be releasing at Woodford, and so I took a trip out there, and lo and behold, it was there, but there was not a whole lot of people there. By the time I left, people were flooding in because they wanted to get their hands on it. It was brand new, but I was able to snag a bottle that way. And
shout out Mystery Man.
All right, gentlemen, let's go for our first notes.
So on first sort of nosing here, I am picking up some of the honey. There's a little bit of honey sweetness to it. I could definitely tell that that the liquid has touched the surface with some honey in it. But I'm getting something else that I can't put my finger on. It's not very pleasant.
This reminds me of something very unique.
Oh, gosh.
In the past, we've done the George Dickel Centrum Silver note.
Yeah, little vitamin-y
little
flavors.
vitamin flavor. This one, I am getting cardboard.
Oh, man. Unfortunately, I think you're right.
I'll take that a step further. When you open up a box of Honey Nut Cheerios, or like the what's the one with the little nut nougats in there or whatever?
Yeah. Or Honey Bunches of Oats.
Honey Bunches of Oats.
Yeah.
You still get a little bit of that sweet pop out of that, and like that glue on the cardboard. I'd say even too. How sometimes
little
glue can be
sharp
sweet.
note there.
Yeah. And you were describing it as weird. Would you say that's more of a glue note that you're getting there, or is it like a sweet spice combination that you're getting on that?
There is a little bit of spice, but I think that you guys have actually got it right on the head, the combination here. It is I get the cardboard, and then when you say glue, I don't know if I could describe it as glue. It's chemically something, and glue does smell chemically. And maybe it is the glue sitting on top of that. Or, I mean, that's actually the perfect way of describing it. It's a combination of those things, the sweetness, the cardboard, the chemical, and I'm not sure, I wouldn't exactly call it pleasant.
what's more pleasant than a Saturday morning you popping up a fresh batch of Honey Nut Cheerios? Or
Yeah, I got you. So it's a little childhood nostalgia. And this,
What kind of childhood drinking bourbon? Is this Trailer Park Children?
Dad?
what did you say I could put on this cereal?
Honey Nut Cheerios and no.
Actually, I think I got it. You know, Honey Smacks. That's not a very much eaten cereal.
Yes,
I don't know if it's because
the
you got-
roof of your mouth so often. Man.
Yeah,
That one's pretty hard on.
That's
the
a hard. It's a hard one. Yeah. So I think that
Smacks,
that's
golden smacks,
gold.
right?
I think it was. Is it golden?
I think it's Golden
Honey
Smacks.
Smacks?
Golden Smacks. Okay.
Right. It's the sparkly box with a bee, kind of a yellow, like
Yeah,
a,
yeah.
like
No, it
a
was a
worn out
frog.
yellow.
It was a frog.
Oh, it was a
I think
frog, yes.
Yeah.
Frog.
Yeah.
So, as we're nosing this, I'm left thinking about the fact that I've had the opportunity to try, I think, 3 of the distillery series. If I'm remembering correctly, one was, oh gosh, what was that one called? Was it Malt Whisper? Didn't they do a distillery series,
Yeah,
Chocolate
I
Malt
think
Whisper?
Yep, I think that's right.
That legit was probably, and I have to go and say, because I've said that there's some really bad whiskeys out there. Somebody poured that for me blind in a glass at a friend's house and said, try this. It's a new Woodford distillery release. And I did not like it at all. So, Stephen, do you remember we also tried, I think it was Michael brought a Bottled and Bond. Didn't they do a Bottled and
I think
Bond
you're right.
one?
I think that's the one we had.
And that one did
The same
not
white
have-
label.
Yeah, same
Yep.
white label. And that had some like drywall notes to it. And then, of course, the one that I've had that I really enjoy and probably is their most popular is the double oaked. But I don't know. Have you guys had other distillery series releases and things that you remember?
Yeah, I've got a couple at the house from the tours that I've done there, and they always hype it up as this big thing. They won't let you try it in the distillery. So yeah, I mean, you take a shot, you swing and you miss sometimes. You know, we're all Amish in whiskey. Sometimes you swing and I miss. You know, and but Brown Foreman, as far as the distillery, man, they probably got some of the best whiskey out there. It's just a shame that they proof it down, they dumb it down, and they make you blend it out in single barrel picks. You know, I mean, you got
man.
double oak, double oak, and some of these picks are phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I know some folks that's been on some of these picks, and being on a pick there myself, you kind of wish you could catch that lightning in a bottle that they let you try there at the distillery, and it just falls short whenever it's produced into these expressions, unfortunately.
Can you imagine a Woodford rye cast strength?
Oh, that would be amazing because I'm thinking back when you mentioned that the other one that you had that you really liked that we had the episode on it. Which one was that?
I
Again?
think it was the number 16 Masters.
Yeah, that was the very I think it was very fine old rare whiskey or something where they apparently had what did they have in there?
I think it was just the age. It was age. It was the same proof. It was just aged longer.
that was a phenomenal one too.
I agree.
We got kind of a little bit of a streak going where we do enjoy the Woodford that we've tried on this podcast.
It's an Gawcat, man. I mean, Woodford's been doing the dang thing for a hot minute. You know, they're the staple at Keeneland. They're the staple in horse racing. And
I don't know if I'm paying $1,000 for mint julep though. I don't
Depends
care
on
if
the box
I
you're
don't care
in,
if the
I
ice came from Antarctica.
It's hand shaved though. It's handed, it's handcrafted.
You guys want to go for a first taste?
absolutely.
I'm going to go first here because I'm tasting something that I've mentioned on this podcast many times that I don't like. Okay. So if I took the first sip of this and I described it to someone, I would say grass and pepper.
Red pepper.
Something that draws me up. That's almost what I would almost describe if I was being more, I don't know, whiskey-y about it. It's almost like a sharp oak, but it's presenting to me like young, grassy, and peppery. And I'm right now. I don't have anything else to say because I'm trying to process what's going on here.
I like your angle. I agree with a lot of what you just said. But surprisingly, your initial taste verdict.
I need another sip to give you what I'm feeling here because I'm only catching any honey like right at the tail end of the finish, and it's not. Not doing it for me right now.
The cardboard was strong on the note, but it doesn't come through for me on the palate at all.
Yeah.
And I'm finding the sip kind of intriguing. Like it's not offensive. I get a little bit of honey.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
Okay.
I think honey's a stretch for me in this palate. For me, it's astringent. It's a little drier than I would imagine a honeyed whiskey being. It's definitely a little bitter on the back end there. The mid palate is grippy, right? It's got that bite to it that I love. I would describe the palate a little more be like than I would imagine a honeyed whiskey to be. And it's flat. It's not alive. It doesn't speak to me. It seems like it was kind of beaten down.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of where.
But to your point, the pepperiness to me is a red pepper zest mixed with like a coffee anise. Coffeed anise, so like a black licorice coffee mix. Right?
It's coffee,
that
but
earthy tone that you're getting.
It's coffee that you let sit on the counter.
Oh yeah, that's a stale Folgers
It's
can,
a stale,
yeah,
stale coffee, and I know now what I'm tasting is not grass. It's more in the category of all this is leading me to like maybe clove. Am I getting a little clove? Like a tiny bit?
Absolutely. I'd say that a very fair assessment. Or have you either y'all baled hay coming up?
No.
Alfalfa for me, like a dried alfalfa square bale.
Okay.
Yeah, because it gets on you and you smell like that for the next 2 days.
I haven't baled hay, but I have been on many hay rides with the fall season approaching. And next time I'm on one, I'm going to really get deep down into that hay and see if I can.
I've never tasted that smell of alfalfa, but like I would imagine that husk. It's corn husk too.
Is that what it is?
I think it's a husk of some kind, either alfalfa grass or straw, or it's dry, it's flat.
As you were describing all that, I was sitting back, kind of like taking it in. As you're describing it, I got a lot of what you said.
Well,
are you teaching up at the local college?
It's the Yoda. Putting on a master tasting class.
Well, all I got to do is tell you don't think of an elephant. What's the first thing you think of? You know, I mean, the power of suggestion is very real, but
yeah,
I'd encourage anybody to really dig deep on whiskey notes, and I'm sure you'll find your sweet spot. And you don't have to, and that's the beauty of whiskey. You know, a lot of great tasters and palates that I know either like it or don't. So,
and that's where I tend to gravitate. I don't do as well sometimes with the descriptors, but I can tell you this. You know, the one thing that really is encouraging is that we do have what I would say is 3 people around the table with different levels of experience in tasting whiskey, but we all can taste similar things.
So, gentlemen, would you pass, try, or buy on the Woodford Reserve Honey Barrel Finish?
I'll lead the way. So I would definitely try that. Right, if it's exclusive, if it's going to be like a one-time deal out of a distillery, I don't see why not. Right, I mean that's a really unique pour. You're never going to get that anywhere else. I'm trying that all day, especially if you're buying.
Amen.
It's easy if you're trying. No, I'm just joking. Hey, when you try it at a friend's house, we've said that before. You know, I tried it at a friend's house, so
I mean,
no doubt.
Yeah, Honey Barrel Finish. I mean, there's been several distilleries. Belle Meade did one that was fantastic. There's been some other ones that's been tried, and they it's a really unique pour. So I would absolutely try that once in a lifetime. Really, I mean, with this release, why not?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you. I'm gonna have to try this because, especially if you like bourbon, and Woodford's basically putting out an experimental series here with these white labels, I don't see why not to try it.
Yeah, and I'm going to round this discussion out by saying that I would be a try minus, and the reason why I'm a try minus is because there's one thing I don't like. I know my palate well enough to know that I don't like grain forward, and I was really looking for more sweetness out of this than I got. Maybe that's unfair. But if I had to guess, if I were a betting man, I would say, and I hope I'm dead wrong on this and somebody would call me out on it, that this whiskey is not as old as maybe even a normal Woodford distillate might be. That maybe they put younger liquid into that, because I just taste a little too much of that, what you were saying about the grains and the alfalfa and that kind of stuff, and this grassiness and the pepperiness. It could just be the influence of the honey. The other thing I was going to say is think about the way honey, is made. Some of that stuff that is environmental elements maybe that I'm tasting in there that I'm not liking. And so for my palate, that's why it's a try myself. It's pollen.
Yeah. I mean,
which I'm highly allergic to.
We know your allergies here. So
yeah, I'm trying to keep my true story, guys. Like Steven actually flicked me in the nose.
No, I didn't flick you.
He booped me right in the nose to tell me to watch my breathing. And it was epic. But yeah, I'm going to try it for all the reasons you guys say, but I'm going to be a try minus.
Well, and that's indicative of what we got, right? I mean, if it's a youthful whiskey, as we suspect, honey is sweet, right? Everybody thinks of honey as this delicate, sweet thing, and it is. But what are we comparing that to? A high fructose corn candy or something? You know, what kind of sweetness are we talking about?
That's true.
Honey always balances on that lower earthy sweetness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus that top end candy sugared.
Yeah.
Weird candy top ends, right? And if you have that astringency of that grassy youth paired with the honey, which is a more natural earthy type of sweetness, of course they're going to clash and get what we're experiencing. And unfortunately, it's flat and cardboardy.
So when we were tasting this in Mossick, you mentioned about some other honey barrel finished products and things like that. I'm wondering, do you guys think that's going to be like the next trend? Because it seems right now that finishing whiskey is like a hot thing to do. You know, putting it in, I mean, whiskey's always been finished in different ways, but even like the special release this year from like Booker's, right? Mm-hmm. Little Book, not Booker's specifically, is a bunch of 5-year-old whiskey finished 75 ways to the sun. And, you know, this honey barrel stuff, I'm just wondering, what do you all think? Like, naturally, I can't try it all, but I'm a little bit weary of it.
Sure, I'm an altruist, right? In whiskey, don't mess with it, don't taint it, no added flavors, colorings. Finishing's a different story. I think it gets more challenging as you develop a program in a distillate because it can be so vastly inconsistent between what you're putting into a finishing barrel versus your end outcome. So I think it's a challenge that I don't think distilleries should stop doing. But I've been burned so many times on finished products that it's kind of hard to, without knowing for a fact and having someone I know and trust to having given it a blessing, you know, whether or not to pull the trigger. But no, I think it's a really important thing to kind of continue doing for distilleries.
I think if they keep trying these barrels, especially with the honey, I mean, nature will do its thing, and so all this honey may come out differently every time. I don't know if the product could be the same. I don't know if that's a good thing for the industry.
I think it really depends on whether or not the bees are unionized. Right?
That's true.
The quality of health care and living conditions.
Yeah.
I think it's different between hives.
I think that's a really important point, because once you start introducing those elements into the whiskey, like, of course, you know, what makes one brand's port finish better than another, right? It's got to be down to what is in the barrel. And just like honey makers and bees, for example, like you said, what they're going to make a different type of a product. And you're right.
I think you're giving a nod
wise.
to grades of honey too, right? I think that's what you're kind of getting at there. Absolutely. But that's a great. I didn't even think of that. I mean, grades of honey. Who would think? You know.
I mean, who knows what they're buying?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you've seen the price of organic honey.
Oh goodness!
Yeah.
I mean, no wonder it says $70.
And with that, thanks for listening to this week's edition. Please like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Mashup KY. Also, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Until next time, keep it neat.